A downed helicopter strands key military leaders in the middle of a crisis. Technicians fail to restart it. A general remembers a retired veteran, a single daddy who once pulled off impossible rescues. The veteran receives the urgent call while balancing his role as a father. The veteran wrestles with duty versus family. His daughter is his world, and he promised never to return to the battlefield. But her encouragement and belief in him reignite the fire he thought he left behind. He arrives at the base. Soldiers whisper about his legend. The atmosphere is tense as the general entrusts him with the impossible task. The technicians watch as he works with calm precision, fusing engineering mastery with battlefield instincts. The morning air carried a gentle stillness as Ethan Walker, a retired veteran and single father, prepared breakfast in his modest kitchen for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. The scent of scrambled eggs and toast mingled with the golden sunlight filtering through worn blinds, painting their little world in peace. For Ethan, peace had always been elusive, a concept earned through years of hardship and sacrifice. And now, finally, it resided in these quiet mornings spent with the only person who mattered more than his own life. Lily sat at the table swinging her legs, her bright eyes locked on him with the kind of faith that only a child could have. She asked about her school competition, whether she would make it to the finals, and Ethan responded the way he always did, with steady encouragement and the words that had guided his survival through wars, crashes, and loss. Champions never give up. He meant it for her, but deep inside, those words still burned for him too, buried beneath years of trying to be just a father, not a soldier. Then the phone rang. A sharp sound breaking the fragile calm of their morning. Ethan wiped his hands, picked up the receiver, and froze at the voice on the other end. General Marcus Hayes, a man from his past, a commander whose orders had once led Ethan into some of the darkest, fiercest moments of his career. Hayes never called without reason, and his tone carried urgency and tension that pulled Ethan back instantly to battlefields long left behind. A chopper was down. Not just any chopper, but one carrying senior officers stranded in dangerous territory. Technicians had tried everything to restart it and failed. Time was running out. Hayes needed someone who knew helicopters inside and out, someone who could think like both a soldier and an engineer under pressure, someone who had turned lost causes into miracles before. That someone was Ethan. He felt the weight of the words, the plea hidden beneath Hayes's clipped, commanding tone. For years, Ethan had buried the veteran inside him, focusing instead on being a father, on keeping promises to his daughter that he would never leave her side for war again. He wanted to refuse, to hang up and return to the warmth of their small kitchen, but Hayes's words struck hard. If you don't come, we lose them, we lose the mission. And then softer, almost like a confession, because you don't know how to fail, because I trust you with my life. Ethan glanced at Lily, who was humming as she drew on a napkin, oblivious to the storm that was suddenly tearing through her father's mind. He whispered that it was someone asking for help. She looked at him with her innocent, unwavering trust and asked if he was going to help. He hesitated, reminded her of his promise, but she reminded him of his own words, the mantra he had repeated to her countless times: heroes don't give up when people need them. Her small hand rested on his, a gesture so simple yet so powerful that it cut through his conflict like a blade. That night, after putting her to bed, Ethan stood in the garage staring at his old military bag, dust-covered but still holding the weight of every memory, every scar. The canvas smelled of oil, sweat, and duty. His phone buzzed again, a text from Hayes reminding him of the urgency. Clock is ticking. Lives are on the line. Ethan closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered the words that sealed his fate. One last time, he packed silently, kissed Lily's forehead as she slept, and drove into the night, the headlights of his old truck slicing through the darkness of the rural highway, carrying him away from peace and back toward the call of duty. At the base, whispers spread like wildfire. Soldiers recognized him, the legendary mechanic pilot who had turned hopeless crashes into flying machines again, the veteran who had done the impossible more than once. Hayes greeted him with a mix of relief and unspoken gratitude. The general looked older now, his hair streaked with gray, but his eyes still burned with the same fire. He wasted no time in laying out the crisis. The helicopter had gone down hard, systems fried, hydraulics jammed, electronics refusing to respond. Technicians had failed repeatedly, nerves frayed, morale shattered. They were running out of time, with hostile forces closing in on the stranded officers. Every second mattered. Ethan inspected the machine under the watchful, doubtful eyes of the technicians. He worked differently, moving not just with technical knowledge but with instinct born of experience, treating the bird like a wounded soldier rather than a broken machine. His hands traced wires, panels, bolts. Listening to the story the helicopter told him, he found problems the others had overlooked, makeshift solutions hidden in plain sight. He stripped parts, rewired connections, coaxed life where others had only forced failure. Time bled away, the tension growing as reports of enemy movement drew closer. Ethan thought of Lily with every move, every twist of a wrench, every drop of sweat falling into the dust. He whispered to the machine as if it could hear him, as if convincing it to breathe again was no different than convincing a comrade to hold on just a little longer. Hours passed like minutes, and soon all that remained was one last desperate attempt. The technicians watched, holding their breath as Ethan sat in the cockpit, his fingers trembling not from fear but from the crushing weight of responsibility. He turned the ignition sequence, muttering a prayer under his breath. At first, nothing happened. Silence pressed down like a coffin lid. Then, slowly, painfully, the rotors began to stir. A cough, a sputter, a roar. The helicopter came alive, blades slicing the air. The impossible achieved once more. The soldiers erupted into cheers. The technicians stared in awe, and Hayes looked at Ethan with a mix of pride and reverence. But for Ethan, the victory wasn't just about the machine or the mission. It was about the promise to his daughter. The realization that being a father and being a soldier didn't have to cancel each other out. He had shown her through action what he had always told her through words. Courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about doing what needs to be done despite the fear. The officers were airlifted to safety, the mission saved, and when Hayes clasped Ethan's hand in thanks, it wasn't as a general to a soldier but as a man to another man who had carried more than his share of burdens. Ethan returned home quietly, slipping back into his role as father, tucking Lily in the next night with a heart heavier yet freer than it had ever been. She looked up at him sleepily and asked if he had helped. He smiled softly and told her that sometimes helping means giving everything you have, even when it's hard. She hugged him, whispered that he was her hero, and in that moment Ethan knew the legacy he was leaving behind wasn't just of battles fought or machines fixed but of a father who answered the call of duty, both to his country and to his daughter.